Hi, and welcome to ChartYourFi. I'm your host, Chris Elder, and this is a podcast about financial independence and charting your path to financial independence. Stand by for the sound of freedom. Hi, and welcome to ChartYourFi. I hope you guys are having a great day today. So, today we are going to talk about our favorite thing in the whole wide world, the B word, the big O budget, right? We all like talking about our budget. Have you ever just sat down with somebody and just said, "Hey, man, how's your budget going?" Well, that's what I'm doing here today. I'm going to be talking about budgets. Definitely a subject that is kind of hard to sit down and talk with somebody, especially because there's so much that could go into it, and so many different styles, and so much research that could be done on doing a budget. But it's actually something that the average person spends very little time looking at, right? And that's pretty scary. This is documenting my research that I've done while on my path to becoming financially independent, and also to help you guys also become financially independent that listen to this and put those ideas in your head and really try to motivate some people to become better when or before they ever heard of Chart Your Fi, right? So, what is a budget? Man, I tend to cringe whenever I hear the word budget. Any of you that have dieted before, I know I've done a couple diets and I probably go back on one. We hear that word and we just automatically think that psychologically we're going to be reducing what we do, right? So we think of it like a diet, right? That sugar free diet. We can't have any chocolate. And as soon as I said that, I just started thinking about chocolate. I just want to go raid all the chocolate that I can find. The thought of not being able to have something after a while, you get that mentality where I gotta have all of it, right? So it's definitely a psychological event whenever you hear the word budget. People associate that. It's a word that can quickly get people to either get angry or just want to change the subject, right? Fight or flight. Budgets mean that you have to put all your cards on the table. Know where your money is going, know your income, know how you spend, what your necessities, what fun items are you doing, how are you saving, investments, those investments will empower you to gain your financial goals if you do them right. I have no secret recipe for doing investments right, but I do plan on researching some. So, stay tuned for that. So, I know it may require some discipline and, being millennial myself, my attention span, because I got all this stuff coming at me, right? I got like, even right now, I got three screens pointing at me telling me what to do, and I got all these flashing gadgets and stuff like that. And that's what my generation's all about, right? We're about being visually inspired to do things, right? Like we have to see it visually. And sometimes budgets, us sitting down and calculating it and doing our own math and writing it all down, it'll eventually make sense. But it's really hard to stay focused on this stuff. But if you don't start, you'll never get it done. And I always recommend keeping it simple. So I have a little acronym, it's called Keep It Simple, Stupid. It's something that we say all the time. Sometimes we get a little bit too complicated, especially whenever we are in that time where it's like, man, I'm in a point of desperation and I just want to nuke it, right? I just want to get all in there, and then I lose track of what I'm doing because I made it too complicated. So you got to keep it simple, right? before I go too far into the hole with different types of budgets, income versus expenses, I want to amplify keeping it simple. Keep it simple. Um, so it is important to know your limits and start small at first. I would avoid putting constraints on your spending at first unless it is an event where you're in that actual emergency. Watch how your money comes in and learn your habits, then tweak it over time to fit your goals. So that doesn't mean go all out, constrain everything. It's not complicated. It's simple math. What your income minus your expenses equals what you should be saving, right? Um, the easiest way to eliminate your means, and this is keep it simple. You want the secret. Live well below your means, and then you'll never have any financial issue. So before you even start this, you got to know where you're going, right? And this goes back to navigation charts, right? Navigation charts is all about sitting down and putting your goals on paper. There's no form or anything that's special. Literally, get a chicken scratch piece of paper, write your goals. What is your long term goal? Start with that. What do you want to do? Do you want to be a large animal vet? Do you want to running a nonprofit housing organization? Do you want to be the next Bill Gates, or do you want to be the next Bezos? Do you want to be, running your own SpaceX program? I don't know. What is it? What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 20 years? And you'd be surprised what you could accomplish in 20 years if you put it down on paper and you start following it. So set your waypoints along the way. Those are your short term goals, right? Your short term goals should help you reach your intended destination. Make sure to plan your life around those waypoints. You got to make sure that you have those fun waypoints, or else all the other waypoints are worthless. You just sat in your house not doing nothing, eating peanut butter and top ramen because that's all you budgeted for. No, that's not what I'm trying to tell you. Will you have times that require you to do that? Possibly. It depends on how deep in the hole you're in. Am I saying that that's a bad thing that you do that? No. If that's what you want to do and you got the discipline to do that and save, more power to you. You are a special breed of person. I wish I was that kind of breed. Like I said, I got a I got like an attention deficit disorder or something because I cannot remain focused that often. I have a hard time focusing. So that's where putting things down on paper, your navigation chart will help guide you along in your finances. How do you build the budget? Well, you could follow this blog. You could go to ChartYourFi and subscribe, and I'll send you not just a budget for your monthly and yearly, but also a net worth calculator. It's nothing fancy, but it definitely works. So just check that out if you want. All right. So there's this blogger that talks about budgets, and she is the broke millennial. She's got a book out there. It's pretty good, and she talks about three different approaches for different personalities. Right? It's pretty darn good stuff. Take a listen to it. Her book's pretty good. It's about 8 hours long. It's free. I always recommend going to library apps and downloading your books for free off of there. Also, there's also other means of getting Audible for free and stuff like that. I use my Amex and I get Audible for free. And there's also a bunch of other perks, but that's just a totally different rabbit hole. But listen to her book. And there's a couple other books I'm going to throw out there too during this thing. Take a listen to them. It's free. Why would you not take a free resource and possibly grow your ability to become financially independent, right? What kind of personality are you? Are you the I have to track every penny? Well, this approach is best if you need to ID where your holes are in your budget, right? That's the kind of I need to know every single like detail oriented, right? Are you the envelope method where you're kind of detail oriented and you want to put your all your stuff into different envelopes, and pretty much this is like the grandma style. If you were getting out of debt with Dave Ramsey's program, you were using the envelope system and you were pretty much allotting yourself a certain amount of money in each one of these envelopes. This is physical money because Dave Ramsey would teach you that if you felt it leave your pocketbook, you had an emotional tie to it, which means that you would want to keep more of it. It's actually all psychological. All your finances is completely psychological. So, envelope method, I used it. It works. It really does. It helped me. My wife loves it. She loves putting the money in there. Um, yeah, it works. And then you got the zero sum budget. That's my favorite. Every penny has a purpose, and I manage my budget to be as closest to zero to create scarcity. There's a power in thinking that, hey, this fund is running low and I'm going to hit zero at it, and then after that that's it. It's done, right? Until the next budget happens. We also do the chicken scratch method. There's nothing complicated about this. Know the power of your income, write it down on scratch paper, record all your essentials, bills, mortgage, rent, food, things you need to live. Record what you spend, non essentials, like your cable, your internet, Hulu, newspapers, all that good stuff, right? Record your savings and investments. This is paying yourself. Are you saving money? Are you doing investments? That's that's how I look at it. I look at my savings and I look at all that stuff as paying myself. And I would like to pay myself for hard work of managing a budget, right? So, if you're spending more than 60% on necessities and wants, you probably should reevaluate where you're at. Are you living above your means, right? And this doesn't mean if you're paying down loans and stuff like that, that doesn't mean that you're 60%. If you look at it, paying down your loans is actually considered building up your net wealth, right? So that is a different category. That kind of brings us into different types of finance. For example, like top experts like Nerd Wallet and Credit Karma and Forbes recommend the 50/30/20 rule, and that's because it takes minimal effort to set it all up in your finances. And it's called the 50/30/20 rule. Check it out. It's got some good stuff. 50% of your income goes to expenses such as your rent, mortgage, anything above the minimum part of your mortgage goes into your savings. So that's what I was talking about earlier. Food, utilities, etc. Then 30% is your fun money, right? That's your internet, that's your subscription to Amazon, Radiohead concert tickets, dining out, collection of Beanie Babies. We're real serious about Beanie Babies around here. Then you got your 20%. 20% is your savings, your investments, or your debt payoff, right? This is not this is not the method that I currently employ, but it's a pretty sound method, and it's definitely an easy one to set and forget, and you'll save money. Be consistent in monitoring and managing your monthly budgets. Whatever you do, whatever you set your stuff to, you got to be consistent. You can write it all down, and then at the end of the day, you're not following it. This will keep you on track to success and achieve your goals, right? That's what this is all about. Financial independence is getting to those goals. You can do everything in the world that will achieve a goal of $500,000 net worth in the next 2 years, right? And you have everything lined up and you have the ability to do it. But if you don't actually budget it, your budget is going to manage your goals for you instead of you managing your budget and achieving your goals. So just keep that in mind. You could have a plan, but if you do not follow up on it constantly by doing a budget, then yeah, might as well just throw that in the trash can and go go live the YOLO life, right? So this moves into money makes more money, right? The 50/30 rule, it might help you in the short run, in my opinion. But I believe the best method to make money is to really capitalize on saving more. I wish I would have saved more. I think that if you would save 30%, I'm putting 30% out there because it's a high number. If you were to save 30% when you first started working, just imagine what compound interest does, what the rule of 72 implies. You put in just a little bit amount when you're young and you have the ability to use compound interest. It's pretty much, forget that Dodge coin. Your stuff's going to go to the moon. You should really look at doing that. And if you're a young person, which I really hope I have some young Marines, soldiers, sailors, guardians, airmen, just young people in general listening to this. If you have the ability to save more while you're younger, sacrifice and set yourself up living below your means, there is no doubt in my mind that you will be set up for your retirement, right? Um, you have some other investments out there, such as like mutual funds, CDs, ETFs, real estate, stocks, bonds, crypto, that you could put that money into other than your 401k or TSP, which you're limited by a certain amount to put in there, which is 19.5. Um, that's $19,500 if you're working, and then if you have a spouse, it's I believe it's I want to say 5,000 to 5,500, something like that. And then your children, you're allowed to put in certain amounts of money. There's a lot of things that you could do to invest, but you could also put money into these other means to generate wealth. You know, um, you could also, but you can't do that if you ain't got money set aside, right? See, that's what I'm saying. Um, you can't take a loan out to invest in mutual funds. You can't take a loan out um, to invest in crypto. Well, you can, but it's is that really a smart decision? Um, by the time you get the interest rate and you got the what it costs to trade, yeah, it it would not be worth it, right? So side hustles, right? This is another thing my wife and I are working on getting her side hustles going. She's been busting her butt, but you can't do this if you don't have um, your budget set up, right? So you can't go out there and take photography and make your money if you're not setting aside a budget to afford all the resources that it takes to be able to do that stuff, right? So this means learning your to control your income versus expenses, so you can utilize your biggest wealth building tool that you have in your toolkit, and that is your income. So anti Murphy fun. You know, this is by far one of the first things that I followed um, to the letter with Dave Ramsey's program, and he recommended you save $1,000, and you never know when you're gonna have that oh crap moment where your tire explodes on the freeway or your motor blows out or something like that, right? $1,000 may not get you completely through it, but it'll soften the blow, right? Or you may have your fridge explode. Well, $1,000, you could go find a fridge for $100 on Craigslist and get by with that fridge, right? If you hear jet noise in the background, that's the real sound of freedom. So it's late night flying. Um, yeah, once you have this fund set aside, you pretty much just forget all about it. It's It's a in case of emergency thing, right? So I would argue this was one of the most freeing events when I saved up this money. I have $1,000, right? It kind of feels a little bit small now, but looking back on it, it was one of the most freeing moments, right? So once that's all saved up, then you start taking care of your um, debt. Get rid of that stuff. Then after your debt's all paid off, you should be focusing on covering 6 months of expenses. All right, this 6 months of expenses has been called numerous names by numerous gurus out there. Um, I I call it my freedom fund. Um, I've heard it called FU money. But let's say you have to change your jobs, right? I'm about to retire here in the next couple of years, and this FU money may come into play if I don't get paid my retirement right away and my benefits and all that stuff, right? I may have to use some of my FU money while I'm waiting for all that to kick in because it's not guaranteed to get paid right away. So the FU money gives me that cushion, right? That's 6 months of expenses, right? So that's your like 6 months of all your mortgage built up, 6 months of all your food necessities. This is like necessities, right? What do I need to survive for 6 months? That right now is my biggest thing, right? I did not build that up. Not as much as it should be, right? So my wife and I are feverishly looking at our budget, going, okay, we could do this. So that's that's what you should be doing, right? If you are at the point where you have an anti-Murphy fund and all your debt's paid off, save up for that freedom fund, right? You never know when you're going to need it. Um, like I said, same thing applies with the anti-Murphy fund, right? Once you get that $1,000 set aside, once you get that 6 months of expenses set aside, you just put it to the side. That's what you do. It takes two to tango. You and your partner need to be involved in the budget. See, this is pretty hard, and most of us have a difficult time doing this with our partner, right? This is probably the hardest part, right? And I'll admit, I even had a hard time doing this, maybe even up until recently. So, I understand the want to manage it yourself and prove that you can do it all on your own, but when it comes to having a partner, you cannot do that. So it takes two to tango. Lay it all out, right? Secrets prevent you from getting your finances in order, and be honest with yourself and your partner. Another important thing is, how do you and your partner look at money? Are one of you guys a natural spender? That's me. And are one of you guys a natural saver? That would be her. So, and sometimes you end up flipping, but it becomes the B word when you two don't get on the same page. And map it out to where it satisfies both of your needs, not just one person's need. It's got to satisfy both. So, budgets provide freedom. Probably never thought you would ever hear that, but it's absolutely 100% true. Budgets present opportunities that you would never have before. If you know the power that your income provides, then you can accomplish anything. You could travel across the country on that backpacking trip. You could go to that Kiss concert, or go to a Journey concert for those who love Journey. Who doesn't love a good Journey song? Or you could take your loved one to, that weekend getaway for two at Tahoe or some stuff like that, right? The sky's the limit. If you budget it, you could accomplish having fun while saving for the future too. Like right now, I know I could get that big ticket item that I've been looking at. And I've been Googling and looking and just thinking about an iMac computer, right? It seems pretty small, right? It's only about $1,400. I could probably find one used for even cheaper. And I know that I probably could buy it 1,000 times over, but is that going to allow me to achieve my goal? Is that big ticket item really necessary? Answer is no. You know, I'm not willing to set myself behind by getting that big ticket item until it falls into my budget's ability. So if I'm saving for something right now, if I have a goal, I'm going to stick to that. It's painful to say that. And sometimes you and your partner have to come to that realization that that big ticket item, even though I want it really bad, it could wait. Wait until my goal is achieved. I plan these certain waypoints that bring freedom, right? Bring the joy in my life. And that is the fun way, financial freedom, right? Making sure that you plan it. That's all you should be doing. Look at your budget. If you can do it, then do it. If you meet all your other needs, it may take some time to be able to go on that backpacking trip. Yes, but you're budgeting it. You're setting it aside. You're taking your money and you're putting in your little money jar for your trip, right? Or your money envelope, if that's the kind of personality that you are. So don't be drastic. It's all about the long haul. If you're in a negative cash flow situation, yeah, be drastic. But if you're not in a negative cash flow situation, then take a breath and assess what's important to you. A budget becomes the B word when you start treating it like that zero carb diet where you are not allowed to have any chocolate. It's totally going to make you want to eat that chocolate. So, yeah, just thinking about it makes me crave chocolate. Instead, if you were to just limit your intake of chocolate over time, you'll most likely achieve your goal of reducing your calorie intake, right? Or your sugar intake, right? As intended, because it's just. So, what I'm trying to say here is don't be drastic. It's not all about instant shock, it's about the long haul, and your budget. It's the same thing. You gotta kind of dwindle yourself down slowly, you know. Don't make it more painful than it already is. Using the zero to motivate, creating that sense of like urgency by budgeting your balance down to like a zero, right? Giving every dollar a purpose and an identity is super important. And that's what we like to do with our budget as well, is just make sure that everything goes down to zero. If I have groceries, try to get as close to zero as possible. Whenever I lay out all my line items on my budget, I kind of look at it and I go, where am I at with my cash remaining? I try to keep it at zero after I set my set amount for my savings and all that stuff, right? So that's what that means, keeping it at zero. When I know that I reach zero, that means I balance my books right. If I'm gonna end up with a surplus, 1 month, okay, cool, I'll roll that over to my savings. But if it consistently happens, then I need to reassess my budget. So yeah, try to use that zero to motivate. Sometimes whenever I get close to my 0 point on my budget, and like let's say it's the 15th, that zero sometimes gives me that scarcity feeling where I'm like, oh man, I need to really re gauge where I'm at. What is your most important resource? It's not your money, and it's actually your time is your most valuable resource. Be intentional with your resources. When you put a purpose to every dollar, when you put a purpose to every moment, it allows you to accomplish more. So instead of letting your expenses and your time manage you, manage it. Use your budget, use your navigation chart, use those tools to help push you into the next level. I mean, don't let your money easily slip out of control. So be intentional with it. I want you to look in your pantry. Do you have a bunch of food there? Be intentional with your food. Take a look at it. Meal prep. Whenever you go to the store, know what you're going to be getting for your meals so that way you can save the time and the money and your resources from preventing you from getting like too much food, and then it waste and it goes bad in your fridge, and then you're throwing it out. You're throwing your money away. Look at your belongings. It's the same thing. We get this mentality where we need everything, right? I probably don't need that snowboard that's in my closet, but I hold on to it because I want to go snowboarding. So, take a look at your stuff. What don't you need anymore? Whether you sell it or give it away, there's something in keeping that minimalist mentality. And like I said, I can't reiterate this more than enough. Your most important resource is your time. You only have so much time left on this little blue planet. Those people that have that mindset of you only live once, they're out there partying and constantly jumping from one extreme to another, just continuously in a pursuit of happiness. That mindset might seem pretty cool, but it's going to be short lived. Um, the debt that's acquired during that time frame is going to prevent you from acquiring financial independence. Knowing what your debt to income ratio, this can prevent you from buying a home or amassing wealth, and having that short term mentality hurts us, right? We having a short attention span. I know, man. It's challenging, but you gotta realize that your debt to income ratio can really harm you. Debt to income ratio, you can calculate it by dividing your monthly debt payment total by your monthly income total. Then you divide that sum by your monthly income. For example, if you get monthly debt that equals 100 and you gross monthly income of $1,000, your debt to income ratio is 10%. So, um, ideally, you want to keep this number underneath 43% to qualify for mortgage, but I challenge you to keep it lower than that. What's your net worth? Knowing your net worth, it's not necessarily going to help you build wealth, but it's going to measure where you're at. Add the value of all your assets, and then subtract all the debt that you hold, and then there's your net worth. So if your debt equals $100,000, the value of all your assets, savings, beanie babies, and cash on hand equals $1 million, right? All that, your net worth is going to be $900,000. Ways to pay off debt. All right, there's two ways that I've seen and that really work, and one is the Snowball Method, and then the other one's so one's gonna really work to your psychological aspect of paying off debt, and that that is the snowball that really gives you those little wins. And the way that works is you list your debts regardless of interest rate by amount owed from smallest to largest, right? And you set all your payments to minimum, and then you start going after that lowest amount, right? You just slam every single buck that you can afford, and you just make like your, hey, I'm gonna pay this off amount, right? So you budget that, and then you just pay off that smallest one. And as soon as that smallest one is done, you roll it into the next one, right? What that does is it gives you these small wins. So if you pay off that smaller loan, you're like, wow, I could do this, right? And it's supposed to re-energize you, and it does. I use a snowball. The avalanche is the mathematically correct way to pay off your stuff, but avalanche is like this: you list all your debts in order of interest rate, highest to low. Then you pay off the highest interest rate payment. Once that loan is paid off, then roll it into the next highest interest rate loan. So you're just pretty much jumping from, you go after that highest one, then you go into the other one. But see, the thing is with this is it doesn't necessarily pay off the ones with the lowest amounts. So you could be spending quite a bit of time if you have like an interest rate of like 25% on a credit card. So you're going to be going after that before you go after your 12% credit card or your 2.5% car loan, right? So just think about that. Dave Ramsey and his Total Money Makeover, he really advocates for the Snowball Method, and just like him, I know it works. Being fueled by your struggles, right? Are you negative in your cash flow? Do you have debts being collected? Do you have a debt collector stalking you and your family? Is your car being repoed? and it's stress boiling over to every aspect of your life, let that fuel your freedom. What I'm trying to say is you got to harness that feeling when you look at your budget and when you look at your finances. Take that. That is the crisis that will change your life. When you hear that voice in your head, but I want it now, remind yourself about the days that you had nothing and that your car was getting repoed, or the time that your car broke down on the side of the road and you pretty much had to leave it there because you had no way to pay for it to be moved, right? And then you had to pay everything else, you know. So let that be your feel. Um, we've learned from our mistakes, and I know I've made a lot of my own mistakes, living paycheck to paycheck for many years. I never thought I would ever amount of anything, and that little bit of hopelessness really just kicked me into gear, and I jumped off that hamster wheel and said, "Enough is enough." According to Broke Millennial, you should save the following amount of your annual salary. Save it for retirement, right? By the age of 25, you're supposed to have zero point 0.2 times your gross income. By the age of 30, you're supposed to have zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8 times your gross income. Age 35, you're supposed to have 1.6 to 1.8 gross income. Age 45, 3 to 4 times gross income. Age 55, 8 times to 10 times gross income. 65, 16 to 25 gross income. At least that's what broke millennial says. So keep that in mind, when you start saving. And if you're just now starting and you're like, I'm supposed to have 25 times my gross income, well, someone that has 25 times their gross income is gonna had to have started early. So keep that in mind. Compound interest. If your employer matches your 401k and you don't match it, you're leaving money on the table, right? You need to pay yourself. And for my military brothers and sisters out there, pay attention to your TSP. Get out of the G Fund. Do your homework. Shoot, you could call up any of the Fleet and Family, Marine Family, any of those family services that have the financial guidance, or talk to your financial specialist, and they'll help you out. So I have my wife, and she's my accountable buddy, and I love her to death. And she keeps me on the straight and narrow, and together we keep each other accountable, right? Sometimes it's her dragging me around. When it comes to doing the budget, she's way better at it than I am. But the thing is that we keep each other accountable. If you don't have a partner like your wife, husband, whatever kind of partner you have, you need to find somebody that could possibly help you out, right? If it's a financial coach, if it's your best friend, probably not the one that spends all of their money or lives that YOLO lifespan. If you don't find somebody, you got all these banks that have all these people that are just out there trying to keep you the slave to the lender, right? You're going to be indebted for life if you don't take it serious. Have that accountable buddy that's going to help you. Let them know what your goals are. Not just your financial goals, but what your actual goals are. And have somebody out there that listens to you and helps you out with your financial goals and challenges you. I recommend choosing wisely, right? Like I said, don't have that person that's the YOLO that spends all their money, right? Some of these resources that I use to put this all together, you can check out Ramsey Solutions. They have an app on there for budgets. It's called Every Dollar. It's pretty good. 3 budget strategies for different personalities types. You got the broke millennial. That's where that came from. I use Personal Capita just to kind of track my net wealth and see how they're doing. It's a pretty easy to use program. I like it. Again, thank you for listening to Chart Your Fi. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And please let me know if you have any questions, comments, and don't forget to log on to www.chartyourfi and subscribe so that way I can send you your free budget sheet. Thank you and have a great day.